a huge protest in Hong Kong. Police refused to let them march. But do you think they listened? Welcome back to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. I've got some sad news for the Chinese Communist Party. The people of Hong Kong still don't want to be with you. It's been 71 days since 1 million Hong Kongers took to the streets in protest over an extradition bill. That bill would have let the Hong Kong government send people to China for trial, which is something people there were not thrilled about. And 2 months later, public anger is only growing stronger. Yesterday, an estimated 1.7 million people took to the streets. Well, technically they took to Victoria Park because the police refused to give people a permit to actually march on the streets this time. But you can't fit 1.7 million people in Victoria Park, so people ended up on the streets anyway. Oh, and it was raining, heavily. That did not stop them. Fortunately, the umbrella has been an important symbol of the protest movement. Good thing their symbol isn't white shirts. The Hong Kong government was not happy about Sunday's gathering. As I said, police had refused to issue a permit to march, which forced people into the park, but the park was too small, so that forced people onto the streets. So, the government issued this press release criticizing the participants for occupying a number of thoroughfares on Hong Kong Island, seriously affecting traffic and causing much inconvenience to the community. Causing much inconvenience to the community. 1.7 million people? That is the community. That's almost a quarter of Hong Kong. And you know what's really causing much inconvenience to the community? Taking away people's freedoms and the rule of law. Or what the government has been doing over the past month or so, labeling protesters as rioters so they can sentence them to up to 10 years in prison. Yeah, 10 years in prison, that's inconvenient. That's why one of the protesters' demands is for the Hong Kong government to retract the labeling of protests as riots. They also demand the release of all protesters who've been arrested, the creation of an independent council to investigate police brutality, and universal suffrage for Hong Kong. Oh, and they want that China extradition bill to be fully and permanently withdrawn. And really, if the Hong Kong government had just withdrawn the extradition bill after 1 million people marched on the streets, this whole thing would have been resolved. There would have been 1 day of protests instead of more than 70. There would be no need for tear gas, no police brutality, and none of that so-called inconvenience to the community. But really, this fundamentally comes down to the Chinese Communist Party itself. Ultimately, the party oversees Hong Kong, and they won't back down. Ever. Because they think that military and economic strength can solve any problem, and that is their biggest weakness. And it sure doesn't help when pro-Communist Party people interrupt pro-Hong Kong protests around the world, like this one in Sydney.
I love China! I love China!
Or in Vancouver, where a Chinese guy driving his Ferrari yelled at the dumb Hong Kongers for being too poor. Or this protest sign in London where the message is, I guess, we lick the CCP's butt, so why don't you? I mean, surely if Chinese people around the world act like this, Hong Kongers will see how great the Communist Party is and fall in line. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Before I go, I'll answer a question from one of you, a fan who supports the show by contributing $1 or more on the crowdfunding website Patreon. Servando asks, what if Hong Kong became independent, to form a democratic people's party and ask the rest of China to join them? Communism will never work well for anyone. Good question, Servando. The thing is, Hong Kong can no longer get independence no matter what political parties they form. Legally, they have no choice but to remain part of the People's Republic of China. Why? The reason dates back to an extremely sneaky thing the Chinese Communist Party did in the UN in 1975 to trap Hong Kong forever. To learn more, I suggest you watch my episode, Why Did the British Give Hong Kong to China? Hint, they didn't have much of a choice. Thanks for your question, Servando. And thank you for watching. And especially thanks to the several thousand of you on Patreon who support us with $1 or more per episode. Without your contributions, we could not keep making this show. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.